some warriors, cannot draw the bow. 9 of its arrows can be fired aloft before the first falls again to the earth. At point-blank range, it can be fired completely through a 4-inch beam. At 200 yards, it can pin a man to a wall. At 400 yards, it can kill a huge shambling bosque. Its rate of fire is 19 arrows in a Gorian N, about 80 Earth seconds. And a skilled bowman, but not an extraordinary one, is expected to be able to place these 19 arrows in one N into a target the size of a man, each a hit, at a range of some 250 yards. Yet, as a weapon, it has serious disadvantages, and on Gore, the crossbow, inferior in accuracy, range, and rate of fire, with its heavy cable and its leaves of steel, tends to be generally favored. The longbow cannot well be used except in a standing, or at least kneeling position, thus making more of a target of the archer. The longbow is difficult to use from the saddle. It is impractical in close quarters, as in defensive warfare or in fighting from room to room. And it cannot be kept set, loaded like a firearm, as can the crossbow. The crossbow is the assassin's weapon par excellence. Further, it might be mentioned that although it takes longer to set the crossbow, a weaker man, with, say, his belt claw or his winding gear, can certainly manage to do so. Accordingly, for every man capable of drawing a warrior's longbow, there will be an indefinite number who can use the crossbow. Lastly, at shorter distances, the crossbow requires much less skill for accuracy than the longbow. I smiled to myself. It is not difficult to see why, popularly, the crossbow should be regarded as a generally more efficient weapon than the longbow, in spite of being inferior to it in the hands of an expert in range, accuracy, and rate of fire. Well used, the longbow is a far more devastating weapon than its rival, the crossbow. But few men had the strength and eye to use it well. I prided myself on my skill with the weapon. I paddled along gently, kneeling on the rushes of my small, narrow craft. "It is the weapon of a peasant," I heard echoing in my mind, and again smiled. The older Tarl, my former master-at-arms, had so spoken to me years before in Koroba, my city, the towers of the morning. I looked down at the long, heavy, leather-wrapped bow of supple Kalana wood in the bottom of the rushcraft. I laughed. It was true that the longbow is a weapon of peasants, who make and use them, sometimes with great efficiency. That fact in itself, that the longbow is a peasant weapon, would make many Gorians, particularly those not familiar with the bow, look down upon it. Gorian warriors, generally drawn from the cities, are warriors by blood, by caste. Moreover, they are high caste. The peasants, isolated in their narrow fields and villages, are low caste. Indeed, the peasant is regarded by those of the cities as being little more than an ignoble brute, ignorant and superstitious, venal and vicious, a grubber in the dirt, a plodding animal, an ill-tempered beast, something at best cunning and treacherous. And yet I knew that in each dirt-floored cone of straw that served as the dwelling place of a peasant and his family, there was, by the fire-hole, a homestone. The peasants themselves, though regarded as the lowest caste on all Gore by most Gorians, call themselves proudly the ox on which the homestone rests. And I think their saying is true. Peasants, incidentally, are seldom, except in emergencies, utilized in the armed forces of a city. This is a further reason why their weapon, the longbow, is less known in the cities and among warriors than it deserves to be. The Gorian, to my mind, is often, though not always, bound by historical accidents and cultural traditions, which are then often rationalized into a semblance of plausibility. For example, I had even heard arguments to the effect that peasants used the longbow only because they lacked the manufacturing capability to produce crossbows, as though they could not have traded their goods or sold animals to obtain crossbows, if they wished.